What's up, y'all? This is Brave, and I'm back for another review of Ready to Love. This is season 8, episode 5, and the episode is titled Navigating Non-Negotiables. Let's get right into the review. So we are all waiting to know what guy is going home. Is it Marvin or is it Red? The ladies actually end up sending Red home. Like I said in my other review, Red and Marvin could have gone home, but we'll settle for this. So we already know for this week, the men have the power, and Tommy tells them that they need to focus on their non-negotiables this week. Now, I will say, I don't think I've ever heard Tommy tell the cast in previous seasons to focus on their non-negotiables, but maybe he's trying to switch it up. So let's get right into it. Okay, let's get to these dates. The first one is going to be a double date. It is Herbert with Quentin, as well as Janelle and Kat. Now, keep in mind, Quentin and Herbert are both interested in Janelle. Janelle is definitely interested in both of them, but the difference is that Herbert is also interested in Kat. All right, so first things first, you have Herbert talking to Janelle, and he's like, oh, how is it going with your situationships or whatever? And her response is, well, I can't get in touch with you because you don't even respond to my text messages. I said, oh, trouble in paradise? What's going on here? Now, I can't wait for Kat to get here because I feel like Janelle will be showing her true colors like she's done once before, because y'all already know baby girl is very jealous, okay? So Kat ends up coming through or whatever, gives everybody a hug, and Herbert goes on to ask her, like, oh, how's your week been going? She's like, oh, yeah, it's been good. Work's good. Life's good. I was able to work out or whatever. And he's like, oh, I see. Here comes Janelle. Can you? Girl, stop being a hater. Please stop being a hater. So now we start talking about non-negotiables, right? Herbert says his one non-negotiable is having children. He wants to have kids. He wants to start a family. Now, Kat says that she's kind of in the middle on that. She doesn't exactly know if she wants kids or not. And if she wants to move forward pursuing Herbert, she has to really, make a decision what she wants for her future. And I'm like, okay, at least you were trying to think this through. So we get to Quentin, and his non-negotiables are someone who is disciplined in their own right and having emotional intelligence. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess if that's your non-negotiables, whatever. Now let's go ahead and get to Janelle. So she wants someone who is ambitious because that's the type of person that she is. Quentin is in his confessional saying that they just align so well. And I'm just like, so what are you going to do about this age gap, sir? But whatever. So we did not hear what Kat's non-negotiables were, but we did get to see them play pickleball. Now, y'all, I have no idea where this whole pickleball thing came from, but it has been sweeping the nation. People have been playing this pickleball game left and right, and I don't understand why. But let's go ahead and continue with this date. So they play a game of pickleball. Q, and I keep calling him Q, Quentin and Janelle partnered up, and you already know Herbert and Kat partnered up. So after they play, they decide to break off and, have a conversation. So we have Herbert and Janelle talking. And in this conversation, she is questioning if he is actually into her because he's not, responding to her in a timely manner. He's not texting her back. He's not giving her phone calls. Now, according to him, he's not typically the guy who is going to be dating multiple women at the same time. So he's trying to figure out how to juggle, this process. And she's like, okay, well, that's cute and all, but there are other guys that want to talk to me and I'm entertaining them, but my preference is actually to talk to you. So now he says that he's going to work on that. When it comes to Herbert and Janelle, I'm not really sure about them. I just feel like she might walk all over him. That's all I'm going to say. But let's jump on over to Quentin and Kat. I feel like nothing was happening with them. It didn't seem like there was any interest there because they were talking about some, oh, are you competitive? yeah, it wasn't happening for them. Let's slide on over to the next thing. All right, so next we get a date with Chris and Aries, y'all. He invites her over to his house. Baby boy has a chef there to cook. I said, now this is what I'm talking about. So they briefly talk about like if Aries cooks or not. She's like, no, because my boys are getting older. We learned that her kids are, I want to say, 13 and 11. We also learned that Chris has a daughter who's vegan. I'm just like, I really missed that episode that Ready to Love used to air to let us know about the cast, because that would kind of help us. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, they talk about non-negotiables. So for Aries, she says that she needs someone that can be a good example of a father, because she has these two boys and they need a father figure. I mean, I'm pretty sure maybe their dad might be in their life, but you know what I'm saying. Nobody wants to be with a man who only likes them and not their children. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of men out here who do that. They are dating mothers, but they do not care about them children. That's a whole other story for a whole other day. Nonetheless, for him, so he said he can't do drama, okay? If you have a horrible relationship with your ex and, there's kids involved, he want no part of it. And I can't blame him, because nobody want all that extra drama in their life. Now, we also learn about Aries, and in her divorce, she's the one who wanted the divorce, and the ex-husband did not. But it seems like they must have a decent relationship. So Chris goes on to tell her how, he's usually a closed off person, but he feels very comfortable with her. So he's opening up to her. We learn that both of his parents have passed away. His dad actually passed away the day before he was born, which is so sad. I'm not sure exactly how recent it was that his mom passed away, but he definitely connects with Aries because he sees the type of mom that she is. And basically, he has the same type of relationship with his mom as her sons has with her. So keep in mind, baby boy's out here getting all types of choked up, tearing up, and all of this. But she appreciates the fact that he's being very vulnerable with her. And next thing you know, he whips out a picture that, or should I say some artwork that his friend drew up, which was of his mom and him. Now, I will say that I thought that this date was really cute when it comes to Chris and Aries. But I'm wondering if she was a bit weirded out when he whipped out that painting of his mom and him. I'm just curious. But let's go ahead and move on. All right, so the next day is Marvin and Unique. They actually go horseback riding, and then he had a picnic set up for them. Y'all, I feel like nothing was said. Next thing you know, they start giving each other googly eyes, and then they start making out. I'm like, how did we get here? All right, let's talk about the non-negotiables, you guys, because I hate the fact that every couple decided to say, so what are your non-negotiables? Like, could y'all, ease into the conversation or something? But nonetheless, he says that he wants more children. He has a daughter. Unique has 2 kids, and he wants 2 more. That's the minimum. He wants 2 more. But then he goes on to say that, but if I have a son, then, we're good, because I just have to have a son. Y'all, I'm gonna be completely honest. There has always been something eerie to me about men who are adamant about having a son. I find that shit to be super duper weird. Like, listen, you are blessed with what you are blessed with. If you had all girls, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. Or also, what if your son doesn't want to be just like you? What if your son wants to be the complete opposite of you? Then your little feelings gonna be hurt as well. Like, I find it to be so weird when people say that they want to have certain genders of children. It's like, okay, you may have a child that is born male, but then what if your child is trans? Are you still going to be accepting of them? Or are you still gung-ho? Or, I'm going to raise a boy to be a man? You know what? Whatever. I'm not even about to go down that rabbit hole, because I could give a whole, dissertation on that. Nonetheless, we didn't even get none of Unique's non-negotiables. We just jumped on to the next date. Now, speaking of the next date, Maria, what is them overalls, baby? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He needed a whole nother outfit. Okay, so we have Chris and Herbert joining him as far as the guys. And then for the women, I believe it was Sierra, Kira, and was it Jessica? I think it was Jessica. So y'all, we are actually at an improv class. And I'm like, okay, that's out of the box. I don't think I've ever seen anyone do an improv class on this show yet. Now, I will say, I actually enjoyed this improv idea because you can kind of see how people will react to different scenarios. Because the first one, we had Jessica and Chris, and it was like, okay, your reaction is supposed to be like, you just got out of a car accident, and everything's taken care of, and now you're on your way home. So Chris, he's like, oh, well, do you think that the car accident was my fault? Or what do you think I could have done differently? And her response was like, you should have turned left. Like, all her responses were kind of like giving attitude of what he should have did, what he didn't do. And I'm just like, that's pretty interesting because you would think the response would be something like, oh my gosh, babe, I can't believe we just got into a car accident. You know what I'm saying? It's just interesting to see how people will respond in an improv situation. So they're using the car accident situation as the backdrop to say what their non-negotiable is. And his non-negotiable is that he would need a woman to help find a resolution. Like, you got to come to some type of resolve instead of letting things, continue and be nitpicky. Now, for her, she wants to be seen as a priority because she used the example of, well, my car is totaled because we were driving my car. So how are you going to take care of me and make sure that I'm good? I'm like, okay, this is real interesting. I feel like they were able to wrap theirs up with a bow. Now let's slide on over to, I think it's Sierra and Herbert. I believe their topic has something to do with like leaving the hospital or whatever. And one thing that I noticed about them is that they were like talking over each other, which I didn't like. But what did we learn out of this? Their non-negotiable is that both of them want to have children. Cute for them. Let's move on. So now we have Kira and Marie. So their topic was that it was a Sunday afternoon or whatever, right? Why was it that the first thing that she said was, did you watch church online? And he called it like Bedside Baptist or something like that. And I'm just like, girl, that was a random thing to say. I guess in my mind, I thought she would have at least said, oh yeah, church was great today, instead of saying, did you watch it? Like, I don't know, it's kind of weird. So her whole thing is that she wants a man who is God-fearing. That is her non-negotiable. And I just feel like there were other ways that this could have been talked about, but whatever. Okay, so now we learn about his non-negotiables, and that is that he needs somebody who is healthy. I can't lie. I feel like a lot of people probably was like, healthy? Because if you look at Marie's stature, it's giving big boy season, okay? So baby boy decides to go ahead and list everything in the medicine cabinet, all his sea moss, macaroot, all the vitamins and minerals and all of that, right? Now, I must agree with Marie when he talked about how Kira seemed to be very uncomfortable and out of her comfort zone. Yeah, she definitely was doing this improv thing. I feel like that's not her jam, but she tried. You know what I mean? She tried. Do I see it for Marie and Kira? No, I do not. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and move on to the next date. It's tired ass Phil and Kat. Listen, I ain't got no problem with Kat, but Phil got to go. I'm sorry. Nothing about Phil is interesting or exciting. He's very just blah. But let's talk about this date. So, non-negotiables, right? According to him, he is not super religious. He's more spiritual. He's into meditation. According to Kat, she grew up in the church. However, that's not exactly what works for her at this point in her life. But it seems like, both of them still have a relationship with God. All right, cool. So he ends up asking her, how does she feel about, dating a man who has children? And she's like, she's cool with it. However, she would prefer is if the kids are not like babies. She ain't trying to deal with no man who has a baby that is, under the age of 2. Which I get it, girl. Because half the time they still be messing with their baby mamas. Hell, they still be messing with their baby mamas even when the kids is older. But nonetheless, yeah, that was pretty much that date. And again, Phil still ain't giving nothing. Nonetheless, now we have Quentin, Unique, and Kira. And I'm just like, what happened to Quentin and Lee? Like, they looked real cute on that one date, and then we never saw them even look each other's way again. But let's focus on this date because they are in this whole little boxing gym or whatever, and it's a cute little workout date. Cool for them. So Kira ends up stepping away so that way these two can talk. And I'm just like, I hate when they do the 3 people date. Like, I hate a third wheel date. Like, just either have it be, 4 people. I don't like the uneven numbers. But let's get back to the date. So Unique ends up talking to Quentin about if it's important for him to find his forever love in this process or out of this process, and making sure that he has a healthy dynamic when it comes to co-parenting children if that's something that he wants. So he says that, of course, he wants someone who wants to have, a healthy relationship. Everybody wants to have a healthy relationship. But then he ends up mentioning how he wants someone who is healed from past things. You know what I'm saying? Because basically, he don't want you to bring that baggage to the next relationship. Now, Unique, she's like, well, healing is subjective. And honestly, I'm going to be, truthful. I feel like you never stop healing because in life, you never stop growing. Now, I mean, there's some people who want to choose to be stagnant, but usually you are going to continuously grow. Therefore, you're going to continuously heal. So she says that, in her past relationship, she, went through a lot of stuff. And sometimes there are things that happen where she has to realize, like, hey, maybe you haven't healed fully from, this or that. And he goes on to talk about how he's healed from previous relationships and family trauma. And his whole focus is him getting into a new relationship to test the waters to see how healed he is. And I'm like, okay, but that's basically saying exactly what she's already told you that she went through. Where she thought that she was healed in every aspect, but then things would occur and she's like, oh wait, I'm not as healed as I thought I was. Or am I tripping? But then in his confessional, he talks about how he feels like, oh, she's coming from a hurt place. And I'm like, because she's being an open book, I'm not getting her coming from a hurt place in this situation. Like, I'm sorry. I feel like Unique is being realistic in this situation, saying, hey, I've been through some things. I've worked through some things. However, I'm still a work in progress. I think a lot of people need to realize that you are continuously a work in progress because no one is ever going to reach 100% perfection. You will always be a work in progress that will never change. And for him to sit up here and say she has more healing to do as if that isn't an ongoing process, I'm confused. And then for you to basically say the same thing that she's already saying is mind-blowing to me. Just say that you're not interested. Let's start there. Just say I'm not interested because I don't feel like we're a match. Just say that, please. Also, I have a whole thing that I can talk about when it comes to people in this whole healing situation because I feel like we have now wrapped it into our minds that, oh, well, once you've been through a marriage or a divorce, or even if after you break up with somebody, you need to go heal. And my question is, so how long are these people supposed to go heal for? Because what people are not about to do after every relationship is be single for 2 to 3 years. They're not. So, like, be realistic. But that, you know what? That's a whole nother story. That is a whole nother conversation. I'm just going to leave that right there. And maybe we can revisit it at another time. Let me get back to this date. So, Unique ends up leaving, right? And Kira is there with Quentin. And she's like, yeah, we haven't had a chance to talk. He's like, yeah, we haven't been able to talk. And I'm just like, wait a second. You have assumed that this man likes white women for what then? Because y'all don't even talk to each other like that. Like, to be honest, y'all, I feel like Kira has this thing about herself that she has to be the it girl. She has to be the center of attention. And because she puts on this whole persona of like, oh my God, blah, 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 she kind of has like that, typical white girl vibe about her. Like, I don't care how much you talk with a baby voice. I don't know how far you gonna last in this competition, girl. So straight off the bat, y'all, I don't even know what they could have been talking about prior, but baby girl jumps to the fact that she wants to know his preference because he looks like the type of guy to date white women. I'm like, so wait a second. You mean to tell me that you stirred that up in the ladies' lounge without any, conversations with this man or anything like that for you to make that judgment call when you were in the ladies' lounge? That's crazy. Like, y'all, I was absolutely disgusted the way she even asked this man this question. Because she literally said, I think that you're, what's your preference? Because I think that you like white women, or whatever. And then she went on to say, yeah, can you elaborate on that? With, this, entitlement and attitude all at the same time. I'm like, first of all, he doesn't owe you a conversation about this, number one. Number two, then for you to say how you basically feel validated in asking this question just because you have white friends. Ma'am, that's like saying, I have black friends so I can say the N-word. Really? What are we doing here, Kira? So you can absolutely tell that Quentin is taken aback with this whole situation. Because he's like, why would I even be here if I'm not interested in black women? And we already know that Ready to Love is specifically for black love, okay? So he's like, I've never even dated a white woman. Baby girl is shocked. She's like, okay, what about Mexicans? And I was like, okay, that's specific because you should be saying, Latina women. So he's like, yeah, I've dated Latinas before. And she's like, oh, well, is that your preference? And I'm just like, girl, just because he wasn't interested in you doesn't mean that he doesn't like black girls. Chill out. He's just not interested in you. But nonetheless, let's get to Tommy's lounge, right? So the guys meet up or whatever, and they talk about the ladies that they are feeling. Of course, Maria is feeling Jessica. Chris is interested in Aries. Christopher, who I completely forgot all about because we didn't even see him at all this season except for right now. He is interested in Kira, which kind of surprised me. Marvin, he goes on to talk about his date with Unique, how he got the first kiss or whatever, and he's interested in her. However, he also has a serious interest in Kat. And of course, Phil has an interest in Kat as well. So Herbert, he actually likes Janelle as well as Lee. Y'all, do we even see Lee on any dates on this episode either? But maybe Lee and Christopher went out on a date and Ready to Love just didn't show us what happened. I have no idea. But now we have Quentin, and he talks about how his strongest connections are Lee and Janelle. Like I said, we ain't seen him with Lee since that first date a while ago. But let's talk about who the guys are not feeling. First person up is Kira. And that is brought up by Maria. He's like, I am an activist. I like to help out in my community. And I just want to make sure that the person that I'm laying down next to is an activist as well and fighting for the right fight. I was like, yeah, because I feel like the crazy thing about Kira is that she was so busy trying to push off this idea that Quentin was into white women, when really, I think that Kira is white identifying, even though she's very brown, skin. I feel like she may have some white people tendencies, And also, maybe it's because white men don't have interest in her in the same way that they have interest in her white homegirls. So now she wants to settle for a black man. And I feel like that's how things work in Kira's mind. But let's get off of her. Because now we gotta talk about Aries. Herbert said that he ain't interested in Aries because she doesn't want more kids. Baby girl got her 2 kids and she's done. Christopher also says Aries because of the possibility of not having kids with her. And then who else was thrown into the mix? Janelle. Who threw her in? I think it was Phil. Phil said he ain't had no connection with Janelle because he tried to text her and she didn't respond. I said, yeah, because you're boring and she wasn't interested. And then Marvin, his person that he threw into the mix was Unique. And again, I was annoyed because everybody's like, she has more healing to do. She needs to go heal. I feel like she's, scared to put herself out there. And I'm like, no. What she's doing right now is putting herself out there. She may be cautious, but coming on a national TV show so that way you can attempt to find love, I think that's putting yourself out there. And when she's being open and vulnerable with y'all are taking it as, oh, she needs to go heal. I don't want to hear about this. I don't want to hear the things that you've been through. And I feel like that's the problem. Nobody wants to hear what she's been through, how she's, trying to move forward. Like, what do y'all want her to do? Sit there and twiddle her thumbs and be like, well, my favorite color is pink and my favorite food is nachos. Like, is that the type of conversation that y'all want to have with her or something? Because that's crazy. And if we want to be real, honest, what are y'all talking to these other women about? Because they're not volunteering up information about how, they moved on from previous relationships. I can't tell you nothing about Janelle. I can't tell you nothing about Lee. I can't tell you nothing about none of these girls. No offense. That is actually something that stands out. And I'm just like, whoa, okay, I can see that you've been through some things. You know what I'm saying? I'm so confused here. Now, one more thing I just want to point out to y'all is the fact that Sierra is never talked about. She is never mentioned in this meeting of who the guys are interested in or not interested in. And I find that to be very interesting because I'm like, how is she just skating by? No offense to her, but what guys are interested in her for real? But let's go ahead and get to the elimination. So, first of all, you have Marie meeting up with Kira. I'm trying to figure out, why is Marie the designated guy to meet with the ladies when it comes to eliminations? Nonetheless, he's there. And then we also see, what's her name? We see Unique. Unique, she actually meets up with Marvin. Now, who goes home, you guys, is actually Unique. I had a feeling that it was going to be her. So, Kira lives to fight another day. That was pretty much the episode, you guys. Let me know what you thought about it. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to you in the next one. Bye, guys.